everybody, this is Hua. Welcome back to my YouTube storytelling channel. I'm so happy to have you back here on my channel. This is the last chapter and the final to Tales of a Consort. I hope that you have enjoyed this story as much as I have enjoyed creating it. My next upcoming story is going to be called The Bodyguard and the Courtesan. So I hope that you look forward to that. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the final chapter.
You're sleeping with someone new, and I'm in New York for the first time. I hate this weather, but I like the view. It makes me think of new beginnings. Here's to new beginnings. I can't sleep alone, 'cause if I do, I'll think of you. The nights are so long, wondering if you miss me too. I'm losing myself in the city.
Consort Summer. The empty chamber of Consort Angelina sent a chill down my spine as I walked past it. I had stood across the street from the villagers who had gathered to watch her death sentence. When the executioner struck down the sword and I heard the roll of her head across the wooden floor, my heart broke, and I tried to stifle my sobs. I finally understood what she meant that last day when we were sitting together. She and I were concubines, merely a pawn for show, for the king and his queen, to bridge together alliance. The king could protect me all he wanted by shielding me in his palace walls, but in the end, I was nothing more than just a concubine. I did not have the privilege his queen did, and I would never be buried in a family plot. I would die an unmarked grave, and to the world, I would still be an outcast. The next few days were used for mourning, and although she had committed a crime, the king allowed candles to be lit in her name all around the palace walls. I had not seen the queen since the beheading of Consort Angelina, and I wondered if she had tried to visit her before her death. Victoria had been sent away to a nunnery, and I had not seen her since her ladyship was killed. "My lady," Lily said as she entered my chambers holding a tray of fruits and tea. Trailing behind her was the queen, her eyes filled with a light that I had not seen before. Her maid, Penny, was behind her with a bleak expression on her face. "Leave us," I said as the queen took a seat beside me. The two servants bowed and left us. "What can I do for you, my queen?" Queen Leona smiled, and she folded her hands together. "I came to see if you needed anything from me. I know that you and Consort Angelina were close." I smirked. "Were we?" "We barely knew each other," I replied when she asked, and I obliged when she ordered. The two of us were not friends, if that is what you were wondering. I pitied her, honestly. Before she died, she was lying in her bed, bleeding her fetus out in pieces. "Her hand had a doing in the loss of her child," Queen Leona whispered. "Why should you continue to pity her? She chose her own choices, and much of it was to destroy the people who lived in this palace wall." "My queen, are you not at all regretful about the loss of her?" I asked as I watched her. The queen was truly a beautiful woman, someone I could never match in beauty or wit. She looked at me with her soft brown eyes, and I instantly felt as if she had drugged me into her soul. "I may not have loved her like a sister, but I would miss her presence here in the walls. She did not choose her own life and was forced to be here by order. I am a woman, so I know the hardship of the life brought on by command." "Who was the father of her child?" I asked. She claimed it was a servant. "Do you believe it to be?" I questioned myself that too many times, and I knew her well enough to know she would never lie with a servant. Her body was her temple, and she would never allow anyone to know her so intimately. "No," I whispered. "She would never allow herself to lay with anyone beneath her." Queen Leona nodded and stood up, her body a beautiful display of royalty. "Consort Summer, these palace walls hold an absence that may make you and I long for another smiling face. Although you and I are not in equal status when it comes to marriage, we are both women. I hope you and I can learn from this, that when you open your body to another and create a life, you are responsible for the consequences. The king may be a good man all around, but he does not tolerate lies or deceit." I stood up and nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. I have never thought about deceit against the king nor you. I hold you both in the highest of honor." She smiled and walked out as Lily entered my chamber. I sat back down and felt the exhaustion fill my body. The past few days had been an overwhelming wash of emotions. "Milady, would you like a hot bath?" Nodding, I replied, "I would like that." A male servant's voice announced the arrival of the king. Lily stepped to the side and bowed as I adjusted my dress to welcome him. He entered wearing all gold, and as soon as Lily greeted him, she left us alone. The next few nights are to be kept in a quiet mode. I hope you understand that the villagers are at a riot for the loss of Consort Angelina. No one is claiming to have been her lover, and the servants all want justice to be cleared of their names. Until I get everything settled, for your safety, stay inside," King Helion said. I nodded. "Yes, your majesty. Is there anything else I can help with?" Shaking his head, he replied, "No. Right now, keep your distance from everyone. Unless it is me or the queen at your door, do not let them enter." "I understand, my king." "I was told you were there the day of her beheading." I nodded. "I told you not to go. Why did you disobey my order?" I felt my heart heavy with emotions, and I looked up at him with tears brimming in my eyes. "My king, she lived a very regretful life. You and the queen would not be present at her death. I wanted to make sure she knew at least one person at her demise. You went against my order, my lady. Never again will you defy me, is that understood? You were not alone in wanting to be a familiar face in her death. The queen had begged and pleaded to be present, but I did not allow her to be. You were told to stay within these walls, and yet you broke the order." I fell to my knees. "Punish me anyway, my king." He helped me to stand up. "Never defy me again." "Yes, my king." He smiled at me once and then left. I let out the breath I was holding. So the queen had wanted to be present too. But unlike me, she chose to listen and stay behind. The early morning hours brought on a wailing from outside, and I sat up in bed. I pulled on my robe as Lily entered my chambers with a basin of rose water. I walked out to my balcony and looked out to find the servants standing together, crowded at the front gates, their hands reaching out and their cries loudly proclaiming their innocence. "Lily, has anyone alerted the king about what is going on at the front gates?" I asked. "My lady, the king has sent his guards down to help sort out the details. He has asked all of us to remain indoors for our safety." "Hurry, help me dress." I entered the dining hall to find Queen Leona eating porridge for breakfast. She looked freshly washed and pampered today, wearing a gold gown that made her glow. I took a seat and saw that the king was absent. "My queen, is the king coming for breakfast?" I asked. "No, he is not. Last night he was in his study up until the dawn hours. He requested that you and I remain indoors today and for the next few days." I nodded and took a serving of fruit. As I bit down, Sullivan entered the dining hall and his eyes fell to the queen. Immediately she got up to walk out with him, and I followed them. I found them whispering outside of the hallway of the queen's chamber. I made myself present, and the queen's eyes widened. "Consort Summer, what is your purpose here?" she asked. I frowned and shook my head. "The king loves you like no one else. And behind his back you are scheming with someone? How dare you, my queen?" Sullivan stepped forward. "Watch your tongue, Consort Summer. You speak nonsense, and it is the queen's reputation at stake." "Then she should have watched her actions and choices," I cried. She stepped forward to stop me, and I raised my hands against her, my hands staining her gown sleeves. The gold smeared across my fingers and anger shot through me. No wonder the king made her wear clothing as such, because she was not faithful. Anger and jealousy tore at me as I grabbed the sleeves of the gown and ripped it off her. She screamed in pain as my fingernails left long scratches against her skin. Sullivan shoved me against the wall and removed his sword, placing it at my neck. "You dare to insult the queen?" he asked, his eyes a deep ember of hate. "I can behead you now, and the king would never doubt my choice." Tears filled my eyes as I watched the queen holding her injured arm. Consort Angelina was right. I am just a concubine and will never measure up to you. You can defy the king all you wish, and he will never see any wrong you do. The queen's eyes filled with tears. "Just what have I done to make you assume such thoughts about me? I have always been kind to you, have I not? I have never defied his majesty, and I never have the heart to. He is my husband." He is mine too! Yet you keep him all chained to your bed, and your jealousy reeks through your pores. Sullivan slapped me across the face, and my cheek went numb. I stumbled backward, and I reached for the sword in Sullivan's hand, racing toward the queen. But as I ready to strike, an arrow flew and knocked it out of my hand. Sullivan picked up the sword from the ground and had me on my knees within seconds. As the king entered, a hate brewing in his eyes, he inspected his queen, and then came to gather her in his arms. "Penny," he cried, "take your ladyship to her chambers and fetch the doctor for her." He handed her over to Penny, and when they left, he nodded for Sullivan to remove the sword from my neck. "What is the meaning of your attack? Have we not seen enough bloodshed here in these walls?" King Helion asked. I looked up at him. "You stand there to accuse me, and yet you have not asked why I am here. I follow the Queen and Lord Sullivan here. The question you should seek is why they were in hiding. My king, I have been loyal to you and none other. I want nothing more than to reveal a lying snake in your presence." Sullivan laughed. "You follow the Queen and I here. What matters that you have to follow us? The king has sought me to deliver a message to her without the ears of anyone present." My cheeks flushed, and I watched as the king knelt before me. His eyes told me he did not believe my innocence, and my intention had been to harm the queen. I felt my hands shake as I steadied my breathing. "My king, I never meant to harm the queen. I walked in on you barging on her with a sword in hand. What I see is closer to murder than anything." "Your eyes may deceive you, your majesty. Then how do you explain her present state? Your hands are stained with the gold color of her gown." I remained silent. "You have put yourself in a corner, Consort Summer. To think that I trusted you, to even make you a concubine beside me. What is your purpose?" I felt hot tears roll down my cheeks. "I have no purpose. Inside these walls, I am but an invisible breath of air." "You have never been invisible, but your actions tell me your intentions have never been pure." I sobbed and reached out to hold his arm. "Am I nothing to you, my king? When you come to my chambers, it is to ask if I desire anything, but you never give me your body to love." He moved away from my body and stood up. "You and I have never been nothing more than a kind friendship liking. I saved you for I pitied you. I protected you. And this is how you repay me?" I looked up at him. "How can you stand there and ask me not to feel anything for you? For years you have left me in the dark without the permission to love anyone, and yet you do not love me. I yearn to be loved. I see how you love the queen, and jealousy burns inside me. I now understand why Consort Angelina turned to something so wicked." He laughed. "Her wickedness caused her death, Consort Summer, and if you are not careful, you will follow her footsteps real soon. If you are wise, you shall wake up before it is too late for you. I would hate to put not one but two concubine heads on display." I stood up slowly, and my heart felt the havoc that Consort Angelina must have felt the day she was on trial. "My king, the betrayal tonight has left me understanding where I stand among your feelings. You will never love me, will you?" He walked toward me. "I have loved you the way you needed to be loved. But my heart is solely given to my queen. I have protected you from those who wish to harm you. But you? What have you done? Tonight you dare to end my queen's life based on emotions you did not understand. If this is how you feel, I shall have you return to your village as a commoner, and no longer put a protection above you." Tears rolled down my cheeks, and I laughed as I lowered my gaze. "I have never meant anything to you. You might as well return me to my true fate and let the heavens do as they please with me." "Very well. Lord Sullivan, strip her of her title, and send her to her village. For the years she has given me, give her £5 and a horse. She shall no longer receive the protection under me, and if she shows up in the river tomorrow with no pulse, I shall understand it was her own fate." "Yes, your majesty," Sullivan replied. The king turned to go, and I shouted out his name. "Have you ever loved me?" I asked as he paused in his step. He turned around and replied, "The love I have felt for you is the same as a brother would give to his sister." But never as a man to a woman? No, never. I nodded, finally understanding the loneliness that Consort Angelina must have felt. If you did not love me as a man would a woman, why did you not let me go to find the man who would? I never asked you to stay. You were fighting against the world, so I gave you a place to rest until you found your path. My king, I said as tears entered my eyes, through you giving me the light to find myself, I ended up falling in love with you. Have you ever wondered why it is that your concubines never live long with you? It is because you do not love us enough. He did not answer me, and left me with Sullivan. I felt my heart shatter, and I reached to steady myself against the wall. I heard the sheathing of Sullivan's sword, and I turned around to find him giving me a bleak stare. You had control of your life, Consort Summer, and you would never have to worry about anything. But you allowed a weak moment to destroy everything that protected you. As much as you may secretly love the king and want more, he was your armor. Now that you have rid yourself of the hand that protects you, I hope your path will be one that will lead you to happiness. I wiped my cheeks and felt the sob escape from my lips. I would rather lose that than have to sit here and pretend to hide the feelings I feel for him. In his eyes, there is only the queen. Must I silence my heart? No, Sullivan whispered, but many of us do, and we are not dead. But to silence it is to kill yourself, my lord. You can withdraw from living life, but not me. I need the light, the loudness, the love, everything he gives to her, I desire. So I shall walk alone, and if I am to meet my demise, I shall welcome it with glee.
You're sleeping with someone new, and I'm in New York for the first time. I hate this weather, but I like the view.
King Helion. The palace walls was at war with the outside world, and I was losing control of my own kingdom. The villagers were demanding an answer to the death of Consort Angelina, claiming no servant had laid with her. And through the chaos, Consort Summer rebelled against me for protecting her all these years. My heart was fighting against my peace, and I was losing. I left Consort Summer with Sullivan, giving him the order of what to do with her, as I walked down the hallway to my queen's chambers. I found her inside, sitting on the edge of the bed, with Penny cleaning her wounds. Leave us, I ordered. The maid nodded and left as I picked up the towel she'd left behind and continued to clean the wounds on Queen Leona's arm. Tell me what happened, I asked. I saw that her lower lip trembled, and I stopped what I was doing. I reached out to her and pulled her into my arms, her scent filling my lungs, bringing me to life. My king, she whispered, am I a woman to be hated? I ran my hand down her back. Why would you voice such thoughts? She pushed herself back and looked at me with tears in her eyes. Twice, your concubines have tried to end my life. What is wrong with me? Am I unfair in any way? I touched her cheek and pulled her back into my arms. You are perfect, my queen, so perfect that everyone desires you. They loathe me for loving you so much that they instill pain on you. She pushed away from me and stood up, leaving my arms empty. She took several steps away and then turned around to face me. My king, you were wrong in holding her here if you did not love her like a man would a woman, she whispered. A woman's heart is like an organ that bursts when in love. It is not an accident that tonight Consort Summer tried to end my life. The pain she must have lived with for years of you treating her like a sister was too much for her when she loved you like I love you. Do you understand your mistake? I walked to her and reached out to touch her, but she moved out of my reach. Frowning, I asked, what have I done wrong? I do not see my wrongdoing. Laughing, she replied, you are so blinded by everything that you fail to see your biggest mistake, your majesty. The ruler you are can hold an iron fist above the people, but here inside these palace walls with me, as your queen and your concubines, you have treated us as if we are also the men you meet in battles. You have offered us a treaty of peace in exchange for a few nights of pleasure. This is how you have lost so much when it comes to women. Woman? I asked in shock. I do not require women. I require only you. But women have been brought to you, she cried. So you cannot stand there and tell me you only require me. Did you ever stop to think about the hearts of these women? They came by command and order, not by choice, so their feet were literally dragged to these palace walls. You never saw their anger or hurt, and you instilled love and happiness onto me. I became a target because of this, and you can only see that I am your woman. I took a few steps back and I thought about what she had said. When I found her gaze again, she was watching me with a look I had not seen before. My queen, my eyes have been blind all this time. I was only protecting them, or so I thought. I never wanted any harm to come to them. Was it not enough? She walked to me and touched my arm. My king, when I was told I was going to be your queen, my heart broke, because rumors of you were all I knew. I did not know who you were, and the idea of marrying a man I did not know had me fighting every fiber of my being. I wanted to take my own death. I am lucky enough that you were not as the rumors said you were, but the women who came here as concubines will never be me, and their status in life is going to put them in a plot where they are unmarked forever. You cannot hold them in a dark place and make them pay for a crime they did not have a choice in making. I lowered my head. You are right. I saw only through my eyes as king. My king, she said as she reached out to place her head against my chest. You are a great king, loved by your people. But as a man, your heart may be dedicated to one woman, but your love must be shared to the many who come to you bearing your name. Consort Summer knew you like a sister would a brother. Do you realize how lonely she must have been? My queen's words echoed in my mind as I sat in my study and thought about the last few events that had unfolded. She was right. I had thought I could save everyone if I brought them here to live under my protection. I did not account for the feelings that may have developed on Consort Summer's end. I never thought of how Consort Angelina felt when she was ignored. Feeling as if I had failed, I leaned back in the chair I sat and rubbed my face. I had to do something about this before she left for the village. I found myself walking back to Consort Summer's chambers, and when I entered, she was no longer wearing the royal dress I always saw her in, but plain, commoner clothes. She heard me and turned around, her face broken in surprise. My king, she whispered. I closed the door and crossed my arms. I am here to extend my apologies to you. Frowning, she asked, What do you mean? Perhaps I was not in an understanding state when you described your pain to me. It took the queen's explanation to get me to see where I was wrong. Her face softened and she looked away. The queen? Yes, the queen, I said as I lowered my arms. You may hate her since I gave her all my love, but she has always held both you and Consort Angelina in high honors. She has never wanted to harm either one of them. Her words have brought me to a place of understanding that I failed to see before. I offer you my apology. I watched her eyes fill up with tears, and then she sat down on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking. She wiped at her eyes and let out a soft sob. My king, I just wanted to be loved by you, she whispered. I yearned for the desire of you and the warmth of your embrace. I was fighting to be seen, and for the longest time, trapped inside these walls where I bled to death while my heart still beat. I did not mean to harm the queen. I walked to her and brought her to stand, and then I pulled her into my arms and held her. I heard her breath of relief, and she relaxed in my arms. I know that, I whispered. I was wrong, and I thought nothing of our pain but only my heart. I allowed myself to love and to gain it in return, but I never allowed you to find it for your heart. When you leave here, promise me that you will search for the one man who can love you like you deserve to be loved. She sobbed. I promise, Your Majesty. I would like to see the Queen before I leave. Will you allow that? I shall, but with my presence, my lady. Not for fear of what you will do, but to keep her thoughts from running wild of what has happened. She pulled away from me. I will take that. May I ask one more request? I nodded. Will you kiss me? It does not have to come from the heart, my king. I just want to feel your lips once, and let my heart believe that it is from love. I watched her eyes shine with a deep affection for me, and I did not want to mislead her. So I kissed her cheek gently, and when I pulled back, I saw the hurt in her eyes. My lady, I will not give you anything to mislead you. Come, I should take you to see the queen.
I know you've been hurt, I know that you're trying. The boss is complaining, your phone's always ringing. Outside there's the cold wind, inside the monotony. Baby, we need an exit from this. Honey, we need that sweet release. I know it will feel them, the electric feelings, you and me all night. Yeah.
Queen Leona was sitting while Penny was brushing her hair, and the two of us entered. Her maid bowed and left us closing the door behind her, as I brought Consort Summer in as she stood and adjusted her gown. My king, she asked, what is going on? Consort Summer stepped forward. My queen, I am here to offer my apologies for my actions. Please, understand that I meant no harm. My jealousy overraged my thoughts and I acted upon it. For my wrongdoings, I will be stripped of my title and return as a commoner. She looked from me to Consort Summer, and then back at me. My king, what matters is this concern of me? I stepped forward and extended my hand. She took it, and I pulled her toward me. My queen, before Consort Summer departs, she would like to express her heart to you. May I ask you to listen with an open mind? She nodded, and I turned around. Consort Summer, continue. Smiling, she replied, My queen, I never wanted to inflict harm on you. I understand now the reasons for the king's actions and yours. Before I returned to where I came from, I wanted you to understand my feelings. I loved the king, but in his eyes he only saw you, and he has given me the freedom to search for the same love I so desire. May I embrace you for one last moment? I released the hold on her hand, and she walked toward Consort Summer. I watched the two embrace, and then the queen's back went rigid, and she gasped. The fear in me exploded, and I pushed Consort Summer back to find that she had stabbed the queen in the heart with the dagger she'd been hiding from my view. My queen! I cried as I turned to find Consort Summer smiling. Then she smiled at me gently for one last time and slit her own throat before she fell to the ground. I returned my attention to the queen, who was shaking in my arms. Guards! I yelled as I pressed my hand to her wound that was bleeding profusely. She looked up at me with hollow eyes and a smile that did not have much light to it. My king, she whispered, I have seen your love, and it is worth dying for. I felt the pain escalate through me as I tried to stop her from speaking. Just be quiet. Just be silent. Be still, and I will help you return safely to me. She smiled. No, my king. This time I am afraid that no matter how much you may protect me, I shall drift off to another world without you. She coughed, and blood escaped through her lips. I wiped it away and bent down to kiss her gently. How could I have been so dense to not see her intention? Do not hate yourself, my king. I understand her intentions. If she cannot have you, no one can. For us to continue would be a crime in her world. Learn from this, my king. Never again shall you hold a woman captive in your walls if she does not love you. But you loved me, I said as I felt my tears fall down my cheeks. You love me. I do, but it took many years before I could. You are the king. Write the rules, my king, and change history. The family plot is filled with the queen and the concubines, and they are not left unmarked. I fought for this, and even when the people went against me, I did it because I was tired of bloodshed. The halls are quiet these days, my bedchamber cold without a woman, and I without a queen. I had to behead Sullivan, for he finally came out with the truth. The fetus inside Consort Angelina was his. But I remain strong and standing, for I shall remember what my Leona told me. I am the king, and I shall change history. Thank you so much for tuning in to Tales of the Consort. I hope that you enjoyed it very much. I will see you again next time.